What's up, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be going over my iPad, how I used it to replace a laptop, the accessories I have, and what I do with it every day. Let's talk about that. So, a little backstory. I'm an IT guy by trade. I've been in technology since I was about 12. I've always been the kind of guy to have the top of the line laptop, whatever it was, even if I had no requirement for the top of the line specs. Whenever it came out, I pretty much went and got the latest and greatest Macbook Pro. I wanted to kind of change my thought process and reevaluate what I did every single day. So I looked at the viability of the iPad Pro. The specs are killer. It's got the M1 chip built into it, and 16 gigs of RAM really make this thing feel snappy and super fast. This is the 1 TB model. It comes in a 2 TB model, a 512, and I believe a 256 as well. I only went with the 1 TB model because the 1 TB and the 2 TB are the ones that come with 16 gigs of RAM. If you get the 256 or the 512, you'll have 8 gigs of RAM. My thought and reasoning for going with the larger is you can always go with more storage, and more RAM to me means more future-proof and more supported versions of iOS. The battery in this bad boy is 40.8 watt hours, which I believe is roughly just shy of 11,000 milliamp hours, which translates to roughly 10 hours of battery on Wi-Fi, the Wi-Fi models, and about 9 hours on the cellular models. The battery is great. It lasts me all day long. I never have a problem. It charges via the USB-C port on the bottom, and it does everything I ask of it. I've watched movies on it at full brightness. I've thrown a lot at it and never had the battery get in the way. The screen is the Liquid Retina display. It's got many LED backlights, and my biggest thing that I noticed the most is it's got 120 hertz refresh rate. So the screen just feels snappy. Going back and forth between applications is quick, and it just gives the whole device an overall feeling of premium, fast responsiveness, which is something that nobody can complain about. So that was a much needed improvement. I'm glad they did that. The speakers on this thing are phenomenal as well. I've found that when I work out and things like that, I'm on the treadmill, I have no problem using this thing to watch a movie or listen to some tunes, and they sound fantastic. Let me scrub through this a bit. So the work that Apple did to make these speakers fire well and sound great is definitely noticed right out of the get-go from this thing. If you listen to a lot of music on your iPad or watch movies, you are not going to be let down. The speakers are great. The mics on board are perfectly suited for WebEx or Zoom meetings. I haven't had a problem with them yet. I use my AirPod Pros quite a bit, so I haven't used the mics a ton, but the little bit that I did use them for FaceTime phone calls and that kind of thing, they did not let me down either. Face ID, finally on a device other than an iPhone, is fantastic. The only thing I wish they did different, and I guess it's really nitpicky, is, so here are your cameras, right? The Face ID sensor is there as well. I personally use the device mostly in landscape, so having the sensors up top or in one of these spots would have been better for me, because I kind of find myself blocking this a lot of the time, and it'll tell me, hey, get your hand out of the way, or that it's blocked. But that's nitpicking pretty hard. I can't really complain too much, and I don't take away from the iPad's overall usability for having the Face ID sensor on the side there. Now the cameras. We're in the age of COVID. Everyone needs to be Zooming and FaceTiming and WebExing and all that stuff. The front camera finally got a little bit of a bump. It has a 1080p shooter on the front. It's all right, nothing spectacular, but will definitely get the job done when it comes to your zooms and all that sort of things. The cameras on the rear are fantastic for a tablet. I don't take a lot of pictures with my tablet. I don't know if a lot of people do. Let me know if you do. But you have a 12 megapixel wide, you have a 10 megapixel ultra wide, 2x optical zoom, 5x digital, shoots in 4K. It really gets the job done for whatever you might be shooting videos of on your iPad. Now let's talk about the operating system, because really you can have all the bells and whistles in the world, and if the software's not good, it's basically useless. I'm a productivity guy. I'm in virtual desktops a lot for like with VDI. I'm in Outlook, lots of mail, creating PowerPoints, using Keynote, those sort of things, doing a little coding. Nothing too wild on that front. I don't video edit or anything like that, but the productivity is important. Being able to quickly go back and forth between applications with the split screens and those sort of things, it really is a step up from iOS. But it falls short of macOS. This thing would be a killer device and even potentially be worth a little bit more money for me if I had a real legit copy of macOS running on this thing. So let's talk about accessories. I really like accessorizing my products. And right away, you might have noticed that I have on here the Pitaka magnetic case. This thing is great. What I really like about it is that I can disconnect from the Apple keyboard and still have a little bit of protection on there. And on top of that, when it's in the Apple keyboard, I have a little bit of protection on the side. I've done a review on this, so I'm not going to go too much into depth with it, but I've been rocking it for quite a while now, and I've had no complaints. I use a very similar case on my iPhone that I'm filming with right now, and it just looks great, it feels nice, and it adds a little bit more protection. It's got the pass-through, so all my accessories work, and it's a must for me. Onto the front side. I have a JetTech screen protector on here. I've done 2 reviews on their products, and they're great. The pencil feels good on here. It feels great when you touch it. It doesn't really impede the way I use the device at all, and it gives me the peace of mind knowing that I got a little fighting chance at protecting the screen should something get in between the case and the screen, or if I'm a little rough with the pencil, which I don't do, or something falls on it. I have 2 kids, wouldn't surprise me. And having that extra bit of protection is fantastic, especially for the price. The screen protector was $17, I believe, and it's totally worth every single penny. Now, my favorite accessory for this thing is the keyboard, without a doubt. The Magic Keyboard really changes the way I use the device and basically turns it into a laptop. I've got the full QWERTY keyboard here, the mouse, and the stand. If you haven't seen this before, it holds the iPad up, so it kind of floats and gives you a real nice tactile feel when using the keyboards. It puts the screen in front of your face, and it just feels good. It has a premium feel through and through, and it protects the device itself. Now, what I also like about it is you have the regular USB-C on one side, and they've added a USB-C pass-through on the other side. So depending on how you arrange at your desk, if you need power on this side, you got it. If you need power on that side, you're connected. This keyboard is a must for me. I got it for $129 from Best Buy, a Black Friday deal. Definitely keep your eyes open and look for deals. You can find it for a much more affordable price than the retail. I believe it retails for like $349 from Apple, which is absurd in my personal opinion. But if you take a look on Facebook Marketplace or some other online auction places, you can find it for cheaper. Next up is my little pencil holder here by ESR. This thing's great. I should have done a review on it, but it's basically a cloth pencil holder. And yes, I know I can do that, and it does work. But I find when I put the entire device in my bag, the pencil was getting pushed off. So what I'll do is I'll use it most of the time when I'm sitting at my desk or whatnot. I'll have it on top charging. And then when I'm ready to go or pack up my desk or throw stuff into my bag, I'll put it in there so I don't lose it. Now, I've been basically using this as a daily driver since I've gotten it. It replaced my 15-inch MacBook that I still have, but I wanted to kind of force myself to change the way I approached what I do every single day from an IT perspective. And I have to say, I've enjoyed it. The challenge of switching from a full-blown OS like Mac OS over to something that's a little bit more mobile was fun. It works great. And the app support is fantastic, as you'd come to expect with everything Apple. Some of the pros, the battery is phenomenal. I don't worry about my battery being fully charged. Sometimes I'll go up to the cigar shop during the day, like a weekend, to write some content for my videos, and I'll sit there for 5-6 hours, not even thinking about the battery, and I'll get home and have plenty left still to do any work I have throughout the night. It's obviously super portable. It's reliable because of how tight the Apple ecosystem is. The App Store is great, and the support is fantastic as well. Some of the cons, it has an odd aspect ratio. It's not like a regular screen. It's a little tighter, the ratios, whereas a regular screen will be wider than it is tall. It takes a little bit getting used to, but once you get used to it, it's fine. Things like VDI and hypervisor stuff work fantastic on it. Procreate works good, and some of the other video editing tools work good as well. If you're replacing a desktop or a laptop and coming over to the format, pay attention to the aspect ratio, try a couple things out at the store, make sure it's going to work for you. I found that it took a little getting used to, but once I did get used to it, it's not a problem. Some of the cons, it's expensive. You're paying laptop money for a tablet. I get it. You have to pay that Apple tax. They get their money, and all of the pros I just went over would not come from a company that was charging a lot less for a device. But it still seems a little high, in my opinion. I could go buy a 75-inch, OLED TV for the price of this tablet. I get it. A lot more engineering, a lot more designing goes into it, but it would be nice to see Apple, trim down some of those prices a touch. And the final con that I already went over and talked about is the lack of macOS. I really feel like Apple is kind of resting in their laurels by not pushing the envelope of what they could do with their software. Apple makes great hardware, and they really burst onto the scene with the M1 architecture stuff. They've made amazing silicon in all their iPhones before. But they're a software company, in my personal opinion, and I think they're limiting themselves by not expanding macOS support onto devices like this. I think the use case for this device would expand greatly in enterprise spaces and commercial spaces if they had fully fledged operating systems. If I can join this thing to a domain and access network shares the same way I do on a regular computer, I don't know if I would have a desktop. I'd probably just have this and some big fancy hub to plug into it, and then I'd have everything with me all the time. And I really feel that is the biggest con of this device. Is it a deal breaker for me? Obviously not. I have no plans on getting rid of this thing. I love it. But it would be a real step in the direction of earning that Pro moniker. Thank you so much for stopping by and checking out this product with me today and viewing the video. If you have an iPad and you have some other cool accessories you'd like to let me know about, hit me up in the comments below. As always, the thumbs up works, so does that thumbs down, and as always, I appreciate the subscription. Peace.